Welcome to the Playbook presented by the Leaders Lab. I'm Ken Eslick, and if you're a leader or founder who wants to hire top talent, scale your business, and sell for more, you're in the right place. Each week, Annika Kwacha and I bring you practical, actionable advice that you can put to work immediately to make an impact in your business today. And now, here's this week's episode. Welcome back to the Playbook by the Leaders Lab. I'm your host, Ken Eslick, and on the show today we have Dr. Ginny Baro. Ginny is a Fortune 500 executive coach, a #1 best-selling author, and the CEO of Executive Bound. She specializes in converting leadership breakdowns into actionable operating roadmaps to drive clarity and enterprise performance. Ginny, welcome to the show, and would love to hear you dive a little bit more into your background.
Hi, Ken.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be with you today. Of course, I always love to give value to your audience. My background entails the immigrant journey. I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic until the age of 14. I don't think that I brought that up, Ken.
Yeah.
That was my background. And to me, that was really the fundamental part of me as a leadership. Like my leadership identity today is still looking back at that 14-year-old girl who came to the US and had a huge dream to break the cycle of poverty and become a professional woman who can fend for herself. I grew up seeing a lot of women, specifically in the village near Haiti, who didn't have a lot of financial options. My mom happened to be a teacher, and she kind of instilled in me professionalism and work ethic, and it's good to basically make your own money. It served her well because she was able to get out of a really bad situation, which I talk about in my TEDx, which I just recorded this past January, From Invisible to Influential. And then when I got here, the world was my oyster. I felt like Superwoman. However, I didn't speak English. I didn't understand the culture, and I didn't know the rules. So it took me a beat to learn English through high school. Then I went to college and studied computer science. That's my background in technology. And I graduated and started working for Prudential.
When you came over, did your mom come over with you? What was that?
So my mom came first. I didn't want to get into all the details, but my mom came first for 2 years before I got here. And I stayed with the landlord. And I stayed another year with my aunt. So those were really tough years when you're 12 and 13 years old as a young woman growing up and not having your mom with you. That was really hard for me. That part of my life, those first 14 years, I believe were probably the hardest 14 years of my life. Even though I had a lot of obstacles ahead of me, I was an adult. And I had a whole different set of resources that I could lean into to help me. And we'll get to talk about those too.
So you learned independence at a very young age, and I'm guessing that's probably served you becoming an entrepreneur and all of that. When you got here, you're 14 years old. So roughly for us, that would be what, like the 9th grade or something like that?
9th grade. Yeah, freshman in high school.
And not knowing English, I mean, like, how did you catch up? Because not only did you catch up, but like, I don't have a doctorate. I don't even have a bachelor's degree. So you've got 3 degrees more than I have. How did you catch up and then just keep going? Like,
I brought up the word identity because that's really meaningful to our conversation today.
Yeah.
My identity when I got here was I'm an underdog, and I need to break the cycle of poverty. Like that was my identity. Like, how do I do that? And when I looked at the panorama, it was like, I need to get educated. So high school was my foundation in terms of learning the language, learning what the word jump meant.
Yeah.
I would ask my teacher, what is jump? And she would hop across the front of the classroom to show me what jump was. I'm like, oh, that's jump. So that was the 4 years. So I leaned on my coaches, my friends, and we had a melting pot in Jersey City, Dickinson High School. We had people from all over the world, students from all over the world, especially a lot of people from Latin America and Europe. And so I found community and belonging. And sports, I did volleyball and swimming for a couple of years before my dad said, no more, you're not going to be a swimmer, you're not going to be a volleyball player, so get it straight A's. Like, okay, Dad. And so I did that throughout college. I was doing the same thing. I was learning. So when I graduated and I started working for Prudential, I said, okay, I don't want to be pigeonholed as a technologist. So I need to keep going and I need to earn a master's in business so that I can increase my knowledge of business. And so I did. But the entire time when I was doing that, I was working full time for Prudential as a programmer. And then when I finished, I decided to keep going for my PhD. They required that I get my master's in computer science. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And then 10 years later, after finishing my master's in computer science, I finished my PhD. So obstacles were plenty, and we can talk about them in the context of the people that are listening and how you overcome adversity, because there definitely was adversity professionally and also adversity on the home front,
Right.
because we are one person. We don't get to show up as two separate people.
I'm curious, as you went through, because I'm guessing at the beginning, first thing is learn English, fit in, and then beyond fitting in, excel. You get into college, you get a good job. I've only known you this year, right, for the last several months. But everything I know about you is like you're this really energetic, outgoing person. You're not the prototypical, what I would see with multiple degrees in systems and engineering and all of that. I can see how it can serve you in leadership and like breaking
Yeah.
down issues and problems and org charts. But what was that like? I mean, did you enjoy that work or were you kind of striving for more, I guess, human connection?
A few things. So one of my strengths, my Clifton strengths, is learner.
Mm-hmm.
So that served me a huge deal. If I have to go to the source, my dad was a big proponent of education.
Yeah.
And he said, Ginny, if you're going to study whatever you study, go all the way to the top. So I thought, okay, what's the all the way to the top? If my field is technology, a PhD in some technology field. So I picked information systems, which was the combination of the technology with the application of it in
Yeah.
business. So having that growth mindset of always wanting to learn, evolve, develop, add the most value in the workplace, that was always my North Star. And
Yeah.
so when I was working full time, I realized that I couldn't afford to stop working to go back to school. So I thought, I'll just go to school part time and paid for my school, 85% for my MBA. I think a bunch also for my master's and ultimately for my PhD. I was working in companies who gave me tuition reimbursement. So I thought the years are going to go by no matter what. Instead of wasting my time, why don't I take advantage of my time? So in the process, I got married in 2005. I got divorced in 2010. It was official in 2014. So I was going through a big dip in my professional life and my personal life. But it was always with the intent, Ken, to how can I show up to work prepared, qualified, learning, engaging, and feeling like the work that I'm doing and the knowledge I'm gaining through school is giving me proof to believe in myself. And
Right.
so it almost became, in a good way, like an addiction where I was learning and growing and learning and growing in my job, in my different roles. I was always aiming for what is that next level of growth. Not necessarily titles, which by coincidence happened to come with the titles, but it was more around how can I really make a difference at work?
Right.
And to me, that came through the knowledge you bring, but also how you show up as a person to work, how you lead. And I wanted to be a leader. That was
Right.
also one of my North Stars, to become a leader within the corporate world.
I wanted to pause on something you said about always kind of striving for the next thing, not just for the sake of the title or the material things that come with it, but for like, who do I need to become to go from managerial level to director level or whatever it is. And I had the same mindset. At times I probably tipped over the edge, just to be honest, and I'm not proud of it, of chasing a little bit the title and the money, you know what I mean? And that never felt good. But it always did feel good and natural when it was, no, I'm just trying to show up the best I can. And as I engage with leaders now, it's like no one's really going to promote you when you're a big question mark, like, even if you're good in your current role, right? Even if you're really good in your current role, but if you're showing none of the attributes. So I always kind of felt like there was always kind of this three phases that I felt like I went through when I got promoted. The first one would be a little bit like you're swimming under, you're treading water, like trying to figure it out. and oh my God, this is so much more responsibility than I've ever had. Then you figure it out and you get some great people around you. And then you're a little bit in this kind of upswing coast mode. But in a growing company, I feel like before you even get in the coast mode, if you're a known commodity and you're someone like yourself that's always growing and expanding, I usually got tapped in the shoulder. And before I could even get into the coast mode, it'd be like, no, here, you're back underwater
More
again. Like, swim out.
responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Did you experience some of that?
absolutely. And I have to say, the saving grace was my mentors and my sponsors, my managers, other than a few that I can remember vividly. They supported me. They
Yeah.
supported my growth. They saw my ambition. They saw fire in my belly. They saw me always asking, how can I get the most value? What else can I do?
Yeah.
And they were like, we have a new initiative starting. Maybe Ginny would be good for that. And they tap me on the shoulder and say, would you be interested in this? And for those of us who are listening who sometimes feel that we always have to say yes, just because someone taps you on the shoulder does not mean you have to say yes to the opportunity if it's not aligned with your unique value proposition.
Right.
If it's not something that you can imagine, when I wake up, I'm going to be so excited that I'm doing this job or that I'm doing this particular project or this role. If you're not, keep your hand down and tell them,
Right.
thank you so much for thinking of me. I don't see myself thriving in that role. However, keep me in mind for
Yeah.
anything that has to do with XYZ. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened in my case.
I can tell you in the short period of time that we've known each other, every call that we've had, I can tell the audience that you are definitely someone that values growth in a big way. You are a insanely curious person. It's like whenever I get on, you're like, what are you working on right now? What's that? What's this integration? What's this piece of software? There's beauty in that. I hope that we never lose that. You know what I mean? I think that's the secret sauce, is that no matter how far you've come, if you continue to learn and grow. But I'm curious, you thrived in this environment where you got a lot of mentors, you're moving up through the chain of command. I've looked at your work history and everything. What made you decide to go off on your own? Because it
Yeah.
seems like everything on paper at least was going really well.
Frankly, my personal life.
Yeah.
And I had a dream to become this professional woman, and I put my head down and I got to work. I achieved it. And then I said, I want another dream. I want to be a leader. And then I put my head down and I went to school at night. I worked full time and I achieved it. And I got married. I got divorced. When you come to a point where you realize that you're not growing together, you're not even visualizing the same things together. And when that happened, my whole life fell apart. Talk about breakdowns before the breakthrough. And I was working close to the city, commuting almost 4 hours a day, leaving my house at 5:30 in the morning, arriving by 6 p.m. And I couldn't imagine to keep doing that
Right.
post my divorce. And so once the divorce was settled, we went through court, the whole thing. The cards fell that my son was going to stay where he lived with me and my ex, and that I couldn't continue commuting like this. So I had to reinvent myself.
Yeah.
After 26 years working, building this beautiful corporate role, I had a fork in the road and I had to decide, do I go left and stay on the corporate road and miss out on my son's activities and just basically not be able to physically be there?
Right.
Or do I go right and reinvent myself, rebrand myself, leverage the best of what I bring, my unique value, and start serving in a different way? And
And
that's when I decided to start my own business.
I'm going to ask a question that I think I know the answer to. So I'm going to rephrase it. It'll be a leading question and you can correct it if it's wrong. How scary was that?
It
Or
took me
was
a
it?
while.
Yeah.
It took me a while to calibrate. I always tell the leaders that I coach, whenever you do something different, something new, whether it's launching your business or whether scaling the business, and if you are in corporate and it's going for that promotion or going for that executive role that you've been wanting, there's something that I called, you have to calibrate,
Yeah.
you have to acclimate.
Yeah.
So we imagine we're climbing a mountain, and as climbers, we have to stop and acclimate to the oxygen at that level. That also means we have to bring our identity along the way.
Yeah.
Well, that can happen fast or that can happen slow. when I work with my clients, I help them acclimate the fastest that they possibly can based on what their system can hold. Because
Sure.
we are physical beings.
Right.
And so when I did it for myself, it took me also relying on my coach at the time, which I was becoming a certified coach. And so my coaching certification required that I be coached, and I used that as my support system to acclimate and to begin thinking like, okay, I'm on my own, I'm running my own company. I don't know how to run a business. I don't know how to get a client. I don't know
Yeah.
how to do sales and marketing. And I began to retool.
That's
And so,
smart. And it's really good that you had that support. I didn't have that when I left corporate. And I think I was talking to you about that on your show, but I went from having several hundred people, huge P&L, big title, to all of a sudden I'm showing up at a Regis office center and I got a couple of contractors working for me and that's it.
yeah.
And right now it's like, well, who cares if you're happy and you're doing what you want to do? But I didn't know it at the time until looking back in hindsight now. I think my ego was really tied up in a lot of that stuff. My identity certainly was. And there is like this reinvention. And I'm thinking, we go back to 14-year-old you and having to come over from the Dominican. I mean, the grit and the resilience that builds to acclimating to new climates was probably really helpful later in life, but amazing. So this leads to, as you start working for yourself, what does that look like? What year is that, first of all? And what does that
So
look
this is
like right now?
2017.
Okay.
My divorce was over. I kept working for about a year after that. And then the fork in the road came. I made the right and I started my own business. I had already learned a lot about how to do my own thing through my coaches. And so I began to implement. I began to put everything into practice. I published my first #1 best-selling book, Fearless Women at Work. I thought that would put me on the map, and it did. It's one of the things that I also coach my clients around is visibility. How are you focused on your visibility so that you can create the type of credentials that the marketplace says, this person just wrote this book on this topic, Fearless Women at Work. It was all about how do we get ourselves from point A to point B as women fearlessly.
Yeah.
Expanded, of course, to beyond women, right? Anybody can follow this. I published my framework CARES, CARES, and that's what I use as a foundation for my coaching. So I was able to show the marketplace that here's a framework that I've used that got me where I am, and that I will, use with my clients to help them get the clarity, the confidence, the executive presence, the emotional intelligence, and prepare themselves to go after their dreams.
Because in hindsight, it's like, okay, cool, build the sort of credibility foundation, right? The book, the foundation. And then it leads to whatever, public speaking, individual coaching, group coaching, corporate coaching.
Exactly.
Did you know that at the time, or was it just sort of one foot in front of the other and first thing I want to do is write a book?
Well, the fortunate thing is that I surrounded myself with the right people, right? Proximity is power. As
Yeah.
our mentor, Tony Robbins, says, proximity is power. So I said, who do I need to surround myself with at this stage of my early business? People who have already done what I want to do. I want to learn from them. So I joined Quantum Leap. I don't know if you ever heard of Quantum Leap.
Heard of it, yeah.
Steve Harrison and Jack Canfield is also part of that group. And it was Steve Harrison's Quantum Leap program that helped me write my first book. They also helped me get in a room and introduce myself to strangers to say, hi, my name is Dr. Ginny Baro. I'm an expert in leadership. And it helped me begin the acclimation of this is my new identity. I am a CEO running Executive Bound. At the time, it was called Fearless Women at Work, running this company. And I have an expertise. I'm a coach. I'm a certified coach. Many coaches out there are not certified. And I began to live this identity and own this identity in a way that I believe it would have taken me a lot longer to have the success that I've had in my business if I hadn't done that foundational work. That's what we call the work.
Yeah.
We must do the work. And that's why I'm so grateful for the clients and the executives and the leaders who approach me and who work with you and who work with me, because they know how meaningful this work is.
Right.
We could do a lot of this on our own. We're going to stumble. Of course, we're always going to stumble. I choose to stumble forward. And that's what Steve would say, like, fall forward. Steve Harrison
Right.
would say, fall forward. Just keep getting up and learn from that fall. Where was the pothole? So you avoid it the next time. And primarily because every step you take will be a new step. Who has taken that step already?
Right.
Let's learn from them. I like to do things fast. So if you can teach me something, Ken, that I need to know or that I want to know, I'm going to ask you, help
Right.
me learn this, Ken, because it's something that I need to do for my business. And I think everybody listening is a growth-minded person. Otherwise, they would not be listening to this podcast right now. So keep doing that. Keep getting curious and keep surrounding yourself with the people who have already done what you're trying to achieve. And that is going to accelerate your progress tremendously.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Most leaders don't build organizations, they build cages, and you can't grow if everything depends on you. Whether you're a founder scaling your company or a corporate leader running a high-performance team, growth starts with people. And that's why the first pillar at the Leaders Lab is building the right team. Before you scale, before you sell, before any big initiative, you need the right leaders around you. Our team has placed over 1,000 executives into Fortune 500 and fast-growing startups and supported over 75 acquisitions along the way, helping leaders create over $1 billion in enterprise value. At the Leaders Lab, we help you hire top talent, scale with confidence, and build a business or team that can thrive without you. Take the free Scale Up scorecard at theleaderslab.co or email me directly, ken@theleaderslab.co, to find out how ready your organization really is for growth. And now, back to the playbook. I agree. And I think there's 2 points I want to make on that. One of them is the constant learning. I know in the recruiting world, that's our primary business, is recruiting leaders. And this came from something I learned in corporate when I was on the other side of the fence hiring people. But just a very critical question I could ask someone. Let's say you had interviewed a leader right before me and you were like, Ken, I think you might want to take a look at this guy or this girl. The first question I'm probably going to ask you is, are they in student mode? Which just basically means, like, are they coachable? Are they growth oriented? Because if they're not, I don't even want to talk to them
Well,
because
you can't.
they know everything, right? Like, it's all done. Like, so there's nowhere for them to go. And so I think it's so important, but I think it requires a level of vulnerability and confidence at the same time to be that curious, particularly in a lot of corporate cultures, corporate settings, because people want to pretend, they want to act like they have the answers. They feel like they look weak by asking too many questions or whatever. And it's like, it's not like that at all, right? You have to state what you want. Your visibility, to your point, has to be there. But then you have to be passionately curious and vulnerable enough to ask the things that you don't know. And I think the people that think that's a weakness, it is a superpower. I mean, I literally believe it's a superpower.
If you think it's a weakness, that's something we need to talk through.
Yeah.
We need to work through that, right? That's
Yeah.
a blind spot. I don't know anyone who's been new to a role that feels that they know everything, even if you've been prepared to do the role.
Right.
I mean, look at us running our own businesses. We wear so many hats. And especially at the beginning when we didn't have the cash flow to have a team,
Right.
wore every single hat, the CFO, the COO, the CEO. I mean, every single hat, we had it on. And so to assume or to pretend or try to lie to yourself that you know everything, it's counterproductive. So
No.
if there's something in the back of your mind that says, "Ooh, if I show that I don't know this, I'm going to look weak," then there's always a way to ask questions and be curious confidently, right? Like I would say, Ken, this is what I know.
Right.
And this is an area that I really don't have a lot of experience in, but you do.
Right.
I would really appreciate it if you were able to guide me here.
Right.
And that shows a couple of things. It shows that you're a very highly emotionally intelligent leader,
Yeah.
that you are not, what is the word, intimidated by somebody else's zone of genius, but that instead you're going to leverage it.
Right.
And who doesn't want to be leveraged in that way?
Exactly. It shows like respect. Like if someone comes to you and says, Ginny, gosh, you're one of the only people in my network that I could come to with this particular issue.
Yes.
And I really value you, right? It pumps that person up really.
Big time, right?
Yeah.
It gives them so much significance. It meets their human need.
Yep. I think a lot of people that again kind of fear this, it's not because they think they know everything. I think it's because again, either they've never exercised that muscle enough or they're in a culture that feels scary to them, and some frankly are,
Yeah.
right? And it's like if that's the actual case, then kind of rethink where you're working. I'm curious, so when did you start right away then taking private clients and like one-on-one
Yes.
coaching and team coaching?
The one-on-one coaching was my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I began doing the one-on-one coaching. And from that, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the recurring patterns, the themes. And based on that, 3 years of that, I said, wait a minute, I'm seeing self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all these limiting beliefs, sometimes even gaps in skill sets and communication gaps and lack of executive presence and not knowing your unique value and not understanding how you are contributing to the environment that you're in. So it's almost like, have you ever seen that image of a cat looking in the mirror and the cat sees a lion?
For
Like,
sure.
I'm a cat, but I see a huge lion,
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
big lion. I've also seen the image of a lion, and this is less popular,
Yeah.
looking in the mirror as seeing a cat.
Yeah.
So for so many of us, we are lions,
Yeah.
but when we look in the mirror, we see cats because we don't really understand our unique value. We don't understand our vision. We don't understand what's really driving us, our core values, our superpowers. And so we kind of believe that when we have superpowers, everybody else has them. That is not the case. But because it's something we do so innately, we assume for other people is easy too.
Yeah.
So understanding that and then understanding that everybody you work with and collaborate with also has their unique value and their superpowers and a big why and their marketable skills, you realize my job as a leader is to uncover your unique value proposition because I know mine.
Right.
And then once I know yours, to then leverage it so that you are in your zone of genius in your job and I am in my zone of genius in mine.
That's cool.
And imagine everybody in their zone of geniuses as they're working. It's going to be unbelievable.
When you started and you said you were finding these common threads and everything, you had written your book initially, obviously for a female audience, but then you said, hey, it really applied across gender. What about your client mix? Was it women on the back of this book initially, or was it more mixed and where you focused more towards business people, or what did that look like?
From the beginning, it was always corporate.
Yeah.
That was my ocean. That was the ocean where I swam for 26 years. I felt comfortable. I felt I understood the environment. I understood the problems, the cycles, the personalities,
Yeah.
the front, the middle office, and the back office. So financial services and tech was my jam. So I would help individuals in that arena, women usually and men later who wanted to get promoted, who wanted to do better in their leadership roles, and many of them who were transitioning roles. So
Moving
I would
up.
help them. So they were looking for a promotion, they were looking for another role. So I would help them, and I still do help them with looking at their resume, positioning, executive presence, communication skills, personal brand, identity. All of that was part of the work that I was doing. So once I noticed all those patterns, Ken, I said, you know what? I have a better solution than just one-on-one. I said, what if I were to create a one-to-many? Encouraged by my mentors and my business coaches. So I will still do one-on-one, but what if I start doing one-to-many and I create cohorts? So in 2020, I built my first cohort of, I believe it was 10 women at the time. And I took them through, at the time, it was only 3 months of my book, which is basically where I lay out cares. So we have one module at the front to do the intro, then 5 modules, and then a module at the end, bookends. How do we apply all this? And I created at the time, it was called the Fearless Leadership Mastermind.
Nice.
You're very familiar with masterminds, right, Ken? So
Yes.
tell the audience what is the power of a mastermind. I want you to give them that context.
I think for me, network of like-minded people, if you go back to what you were talking about with coaching is, finding somebody that's been there already. I mean, to me, it's imagine like whoever's putting on the mastermind could be that mentor, could be that North Star already for you. But then you have all these other business owners or leaders that you're surrounded by. So you sort of get this, at least for me in my first mastermind, this like unintentional bonus of, oh my God, this person runs a business like mine, or maybe it's twice the size, or, this one over here has gone through the same employee issues or whatever. And there's rarely a time where I'm not in a mastermind. I've ran a couple, not that I own, but I've ran them for other people. Yeah, huge fan. I'm in one now.
So here's what happened. When I was also coming up like you, I began to join masterminds. I learned so much, just exactly the way you described it. So I thought, we don't have these in corporate. So I innovated. I said, I'm going to create a mastermind for these leaders in corporate who don't have a safe space to do this type of work. So I created a combination of online training. So I shot my videos on Zoom. I uploaded them on Kajabi and I built my course, made it 3 months to begin with. And we would meet every week for 3 months. And we went through the content, and I would also do private coaching for them so that the stuff that we didn't deal with in the group setting, we deal with in the private setting. And then I learned from that. And I realized 3 months was too much information because we worked full time. So let me expand it to 6 months. And that's what it is today. It is a 6-month program. It's cohorts that I select and curate, and they spend time consuming the online content, which is the book. And then they spend time with me every other week. And finally, we do the individual coaching.
So more
And
often than not, they're in corporations or companies, but they're not in the same one, right?
they're all over the place, and they're all in corporations. Some of them are business owners. I
Yeah.
lately have been having a lot of business owners coming to me for guidance.
As you go through your coaching, whether it's through the mastermind or one-on-one, you mentioned earlier, in 2017, when you started coaching, you're seeing these patterns. What patterns are you seeing now? What are some of the biggest opportunities?
So what happened from that time to now is that I've continued to evolve my offerings. Right from 2017, I began to speak as well. So I spoke at Merck and Pfizer and Verizon and began to build other way in which I could get the message out to the ERGs, the employee business groups and employee resource groups and affinity groups. And that was great work. And as I did that, I got more exposure. And little by little, I began my consulting practice as well. I remember one of my first clients was from Baker Hughes GE. Met him on LinkedIn, just doing a connection. And he said, let's work together. And he brought me in to support his direct reports in HR. He was a CHRO. And we were able to work together for a couple of years. And then it evolved to really working with the seniors, the C-suite and the direct reports of the C-suite, and along with the other work. And that work has been so telling and so enlightening, because what I see now, the patterns is that, and I've noticed this all the way back when I was working in corporate. Everybody who's listening, if you remember the time when you felt the best at the work you were at, usually you looked up and you had great leaders. You just felt good about yourself. You felt valued. You felt seen and heard, and you feel like you belonged. And if also you go back through your mind's movie and you think about the times when you were the most miserable at work, usually those were the times when your leaders were not great.
Right.
So my intent and my why is to naively maybe see how many people I can impact at the top. Because I know that when they become empowered to empower their people, everybody wins.
Yeah, you get that trickle down effect of work with one and impact 1,000 maybe in their downstream,
Yes.
right?
So what you asked me was, what is the pattern that I see there? Like, what am I
Yeah, and
seeing?
also kind of, just the common traits you're seeing with people that are struggling right now. When they come to you, is it work-life balance? Is it, again, frustration from poor leadership at the top? Like, what is it?
So at the senior level, it's always the alignment. How do I get my team to row in the same direction? Now that we have AI in the mix, we are doing a lot of transformations. The whole industries are changing overnight. And there's a very fast pace, a lot of decision making. And how do you bring along everyone that needs to come along, especially when you're dealing with a leadership that may not be on the younger side of things?
Right.
So now we have older leaders who are running things, who this is brand new to, just like everyone else. And we have to get them on board so that then we can get the teams on board. Because if I'm the leader and I'm not on board to do all the transformation, what is the likelihood that my team is going to listen to me when I'm saying, oh, don't pay attention to that?
Right.
So that is a lot of pressure at the top to be able to make fast decisions and to be able to align the teams.
We're getting like 4th of July fireworks on our Zoom meeting right now. If you guys watch this on YouTube.
And how do we help the team calibrate,
Right.
acclimate to all this fast-paced AI demand, AI expectations as fast as possible so we can reap the benefits of it, bring the organization along, and also make sure that we keep the culture moving in the right direction. So it's a lot of pressure up there.
Are you feeling from the senior leaders an enthusiasm behind AI and technology right now, or more of a fear behind AI and technology?
For the most part, I think if you're a senior leader, you're already a visionary.
Yeah.
So that's a little easier to deal with.
Yeah.
So the ones that are in that camp are good to go. And I believe from my experience, most of the people that I work with are on board.
Yeah.
They're on board, and many of them are in technology. So they're the actual drivers of it. And they've already embraced it. Now they're facilitating it through their teams, enabling their teams so that they can also embrace it and do the things that we need to do.
Yeah, I know myself as a company owner, we've seen good and bad uses of AI and everything, but ultimately it's like any other technology, it's how you deploy it. And the upside, I think, for company owners is just so strong. Like there's really nothing I don't do anymore without first at least asking the question, like, can we be assisted or run this through technology, right? And I sort of feel like the type of technology that's out right now, especially AI, it doesn't make someone that's lousy at their job great at their job. It does separate two people that might have both been good, though, by a lot. You know what I mean? And it's just so necessary. And so talk to me, and I feel bad because when we talked, you said your TED Talk wasn't up yet, but it's up now?
No, it's not. It's still being edited.
Okay.
It's being edited, yeah.
Then I don't feel bad. I really want to watch it, so make sure to email me when that comes out. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with today?
I want to say something about what you just said in terms of it's going to be a differentiator. Those of us who are embracing AI and the changes that are coming down, if you're growth minded and you're all over it, congratulations. I keep telling my clients, this is not an option. This is already here. So we either get knocked over by the wave or we learn how to swim really well.
Right.
When it comes to AI, what I've noticed on the learning front of it is that those of you who are asking the question, how do I leverage this new technology to do my job smarter, faster, better? You're going to end up ahead of the curve. And it goes beyond just using it for yourself, right? Because now you have to help your organization integrate it and adopt it. So a couple of things that I've noticed there. One is, this is the first time that I see a technology that is not being deployed primarily by the technology department.
True.
This technology is being now consumed by the end users, as we call you all, end users, is now being used and adapted by you. And recently I had a conversation with a client who was telling me that in her company, everyone is required to figure out how to use this suite of Microsoft products to automate their job, it is the first time I heard that the tech department is not driving that adoption.
Wow. Was that a large company?
Huge company.
Because I
And
feel like
every-
they're usually slow to move.
And everybody is being evaluated on their performance reviews based on their ability to automate X number of things.
That's really cool.
Isn't that?
Yeah. I think the number one trait that you could teach everybody on your team right now, probably starting with yourself, is how to write really good prompts. Like how to talk to AI, basically, right?
So, and that's exactly one of the things we do. We actually sit there, and I had a client right before this who emailed me and say, oh, by the way, here's my logo for the thing we're doing. We're creating a lead magnet. And guess where we created a list that she's going to give away as a lead magnet from? We sat together and we said, okay, here's what we want to do. And together I show her how I prompt our ChatGPT, and she's able to run it, get her answer, create a checklist that she's going to use going forward to leave it behind when she visits her potential clients. So as we say goodbye, Ken, what I would leave your audience with today is use your story to connect with your audience. Similar to, I did a little bit of it today when I was sharing my story. Everybody has a story. So get curious about it. Connect on that level. And then see how what you're offering and what you produce and what you create aligns with it. And connect the dots for them so that they can see, wow, this is the kind of person that I want on my team, or this is the kind of person that I want to help me with this problem. Because beyond her expertise or his expertise or their expertise, I connect with them as a human. And I believe that's the aspect that we bring as leaders that no technology will ever take away from us.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Ginny. Pleasure to talk with you as always.
You too, Ken.
That's it for this episode of The Playbook by the Leaders Lab. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'd love it if you would subscribe, share the show, and leave a quick rating and review. Your feedback helps us grow and it helps more leaders and founders join the conversation. If you'd like to talk more about hiring, scaling, or selling your business, please email me, ken@theleaderslab.co, or connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll be back soon with more strategies you can put to work today. I'm Ken Eslick with Annika Kwacha. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week in The Playbook.